The soft glow of the habitat's core shimmered through Ilara's window, painting the velvet darkness of her room in shades of deep violet and pale gold. Outside, beyond the reinforced viewport, the true darkness of space stretched, punctuated by the indifferent glitter of a million distant suns. But here, within the comforting hum of the Yaethelberg, there was only warmth and the gentle rhythm of life. Ilara lay tucked beneath her favorite star quilt, its woven fibers mimicking the constellations Kale had shown her in holographic projections since she was old enough to point. Tonight, however, her eyes weren't on the quilt's familiar patterns, but on the shifting light from the central core. It usually pulsed with a steady, almost sleepy beat, a beacon of the habitat's silent, tireless work. Tonight, it felt different. A little brighter, a little more insistent. Kale sat on the edge of her bed, his large hand gently smoothing her hair. His uniform, usually crisp and practical, was unbuttoned at the collar, hinting at the long day he'd spent overseeing the Yaethelberg's energy matrix. His eyes, the same deep space blue as hers, were tired but held their familiar twinkle. "Ready for a story tonight, little star?" he murmured, his voice a low, comforting rumble. Ilara nodded, her gaze still fixed on the window. "Tell me about the Stellaris." Kale chuckled softly. "Always the Stellaries, you know. They're just myths, sweet pea. Ancient whispers from the First Fleet, before we even found the Yaethelberg drifting in the void. But they brought the Stellarium, didn't they?" Ilara countered, turning to look at him, her eyes wide with conviction. "They must be real." Kale's smile softened. Perhaps they left us a piece of their wonder, and that's enough." He paused, his gaze drifting to the window as well, a thoughtful expression settling on his face. "But tonight, I think the Stellarium itself wants to tell us a story." Ilara sat up, her star quilt pooling around her waist. "It does? What is it saying?" The Stellarium was the heart of the Yaethelberg, not just structurally, but emotionally. It was a vast spherical chamber, located deep within the habitat's central core, its walls made of a unique, shimmering composite that could project and seemingly contain light from every spectrum imaginable. It wasn't just a display. It was a sensory immersion, a place where the history of humanity's journey, the wonders of the cosmos, and the dreams of its inhabitants converged. To Ilara, it was the most magical place in their entire metal-encased world. Every evening, after the day's duties were done, and the habitat settled into its quiet, nighttime hum, families would gather in the smaller, communal Stellarium annexes, or simply tune their personal viewing screens to the main chamber's feed. The Stellarium would then begin its nightly performance, a gentle cascade of light and sound that spoke of nebulae blooming like cosmic flowers, of distant galaxies swirling in slow dances, of the quiet bravery of the first star sailors, or the delicate ecosystems of newly discovered worlds. It was the Yaethelberg's lullaby, its collective dream, its silent promise of discovery. But tonight, the Stellarium's light from the central core was different. It usually pulsed with a serene, almost hypnotic rhythm, a gentle breathing. Tonight, it was brighter, and there was a subtle, almost imperceptible shift in its color palette. A deeper, more vibrant indigo, laced with streaks of unfamiliar, shimmering silver. Kale stood up and walked to the window, placing a hand on the cool durasteel frame. "It's more active tonight," he observed, his voice tinged with a curiosity that Ilara rarely heard. Kale was a man of facts, of equations and energy readings. Mysticism wasn't usually his domain, but even he couldn't deny the unique pulse of the Stellarium. "It's been like this for the last few hours, actually. A new resonance." "A new story?" Ilara asked, her voice hushed with wonder. Kale turned, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Perhaps, or a new character joining the old ones." He ruffled her hair again. "But for now, little star, sleep. We'll go to the main chamber tomorrow, first thing, and see what the Stellarium has to show us." Ilara snuggled back under her quilt, her mind already racing with possibilities. What kind of story would the Stellarium tell? Would it be about a new planet with singing trees, or a creature made of pure light? Would it show them a forgotten star, or a path to somewhere they'd never imagined? The thought made her heart beat a little faster, a tiny excited drum against her ribs. The Yaethelberg was a marvel of human ingenuity, a colossal generation ship that had been traversing the void for over 3 centuries. It was home to nearly 5,000 souls, descendants of the original crew who had fled a dying Earth, searching for a new home among the stars. They lived in a self-contained ecosystem, a verdant bubble of life and technology, nestled within the ship's vast arcing spine. Parks bloomed under simulated suns, waterways snaked through residential sectors, and the air was always fresh, recycled and purified by complex atmospheric processors. It was a sanctuary, a fragile ark in the infinite ocean of space. But for all its comforts and wonders, the Athelberg was still a ship. Its purpose was to carry them to a designated habitable world, a distant promise named Elysium. They were still decades away, perhaps even a century. Life on board was structured, predictable, a careful balance of routine and innovation. The Stellarium was the wild card, the one unpredictable element that kept wonder alive. Kale sat back down, picking up a small, smooth, polished stone from Alara's bedside table, a relic from a long-lost planet, one of the few physical mementos their ancestors had carried from Earth. He turned it over in his fingers, his gaze distant. The Stellarium is older than the Hyathelberg itself, you know, Kale began, his voice taking on the familiar cadence of a storyteller. Our ancestors found it, drifting in a nebula, a silent ancient artifact of unknown origin. It wasn't a ship, not really, more like a cosmic cathedral. They called it a stellarium because it seemed to draw light from the stars themselves, weaving it into patterns and stories. Elara listened intently, her excitement momentarily forgotten in the face of this familiar, comforting narrative. She loved the origin story of the stellarium, the mystery of its discovery. When they brought it aboard the nascent Athelberg, which was just a skeleton of a ship back then, it transformed everything. The engineers couldn't figure out how it worked, not fully. It wasn't powered by conventional means. It simply was. It radiated a faint energy, a resonance that seemed to calm the crew, to inspire them. It began to project images. Kale paused, his fingers tracing the smooth curve of the stone. They realized it wasn't just a projector. It was a receiver. A vast, intricate network of consciousness perhaps, or a memory bank of an ancient, hyper-advanced civilization. It spoke in light, in color, in vibration. It was a cosmic library, a dream machine, a beacon of hope in the terrifying emptiness of the void. Who built it? Elara whispered, the question she always asked, the one Kale could never fully answer. Kale sighed softly. That little star is the greatest mystery. The First Fleet scientists theorized it might be a relic of the stellar race, the mythical beings who supposedly seeded life across the galaxy. Or perhaps it was a creation of a solitary, brilliant mind, a way to record the universe's stories for all time. We simply don't know. It came to us, a gift from the deep. He looked at her, his expression serious now. What we do know is that the stellarium became essential. It wasn't just entertainment. It became our teacher, our historian, our collective therapist. It showed us new ways to grow food, new technologies for propulsion, new methods for maintaining the Athelberg for centuries. It helped us understand ourselves, our place in the cosmos. It even helped us understand the language of the gas giants we sometimes passed. The subtle... And now it's telling a new story, Elara finished, her voice barely audible. Yes, Kale confirmed, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. A new story, one we haven't encountered before. The resonance is distinct. It's not a warning, it feels more like an invitation. He stood up again, giving her quilt a final tug. But that invitation can wait until morning. For now, close your eyes and dream of what new wonders the stellarium might hold. He kissed her forehead, the touch warm and reassuring. Sweet dreams, Elara. As Kale left, the soft click of the door sealing behind him, Elara found herself unable to sleep. The core light pulsed with its strange new rhythm, a silent promise hanging in the air. She imagined the stellarium in the heart of the Athelberg, its vast, shimmering walls alive with an unfamiliar energy. Was it a map to a new destination? A message from the mythical Stellaris? Or something entirely different, something utterly unprecedented? Her mind drifted, weaving its own story. She pictured herself floating through the stellarium's light, touching the shimmering patterns, feeling the ancient stories hum beneath her fingertips. She imagined a new color, one she'd never seen before, blooming from the core, beckoning her towards it. It wasn't just light, it was a pathway, a tunnel of pure wonder leading to an unknown destination. The Aethelberg was a safe, predictable world, but the stellarium was the gateway to the infinite. It was the whisper of possibility in the vast silence between stars. And tonight, that whisper was stronger, clearer than ever before. Eventually, sleep claimed her, pulling her down into a world of vibrant, swirling colors and patterns that danced just at the edge of comprehension. She saw faint, silvery threads weaving through the cosmic tapestry, connecting distant points of light. They were delicate, almost invisible, yet undeniably present, pulling her gaze towards a central luminous node that pulsed with the same indigo and silver she'd glimpsed from her window. It wasn't a star or a planet, or even a nebula. It was a nexus, a meeting point of all the stellarium's stories, and it was opening, gently, inviting her in. Hours later, long after Ilara had truly fallen asleep, Kale returned to her room. He didn't enter, but paused at the threshold, looking at her small peaceful form bathed in the habitat's muted nightlight. His gaze then shifted to the window, to the distant, pulsating core. The new resonance hadn't subsided. If anything, it had intensified, a silent symphony playing only for those who truly listened. Kale was a scientist, a pragmatist. He dealt with quantifiable data, with verifiable observations. But the stellarium defied all known physics. It was a living enigma, a constant source of wonder and frustration for every generation of Gothelberg engineers and astropsychologists. He pulled his datapad from his pocket, its screen glowing faintly with complex energy readings and spectral analyses. The stellarium's output tonight was unprecedented. A new frequency, a unique harmonic signature that didn't match any known stellar phenomenon, any recorded biological signature, or any artificial intelligence imprint. It was entirely novel. And the projections it had begun to emit in the main chamber, subtle at first, were now becoming clearer. Not stories of the past, not visions of distant galaxies, but something else. Geometric patterns, shifting and evolving with impossible complexity. And within those patterns, faint, fleeting glimpses of something. Something not quite solid, not quite light, but an ethereal presence. Kale's brow furrowed. He had spent his entire life aboard the Gothelberg, understanding its intricate systems, ensuring its survival. He had grown up with the stellarium, had been soothed by its stories, educated by its wisdom. But he had never seen it act like this. Never sensed such an insistent, focused intention from its ancient heart. It wasn't just a new story, he realized with a growing sense of awe and apprehension. It was a new chapter E. And he had a feeling that this chapter was not just for the stellarium to tell, but for them, the inhabitants of the Aethelberg, to live. He looked at Ilara again, her face serene in sleep, dreaming of unknown wonders. He wondered if she was already seeing it, whatever it was. The stellarium had a way of reaching into their dreams, of planting seeds of curiosity and inspiration. He had certainly felt its pull tonight, a strange yearning, a quiet call to adventure. The thought lingered in the quiet darkness of the corridor. An adventure. For centuries, their journey had been one of endurance, of cautious progression towards a predetermined goal. But the stellarium, in its ancient wisdom, seemed to be hinting at something more. Something unexpected. Something out there. Kale sighed, a long, slow breath, and pushed off the doorframe. His shift was over, but sleep felt a distant possibility. He needed to be in the main stellarium chamber. He needed to understand. He needed to listen. For the first time in a very long time, the predictable hum of the Aethelberg felt less like a sanctuary, and more like a vessel poised on the brink of an entirely new trajectory. The stellarium was speaking, and it was time to answer its call. The main stellarium chamber was a vast multi-tiered amphitheater of soft, pulsing light. Holographic projections of star charts, nebulae and mathematical constructs shimmered in the air, shifting with the silent commands of the researchers who moved between console stations like deep-sea divers in a luminous ocean. The usual gentle thrum of the Aethelberg seemed amplified here, a bass note beneath the high-pitched whine of active processes. Kale descended the spiral ramp, his boots making no sound on the synth steel floor. His eyes, accustomed to the dim glow of his private quarters, immediately sought out the central display, where a fresh anomaly invariably manifested. And there it was. It wasn't a star, not a nebula, not even a rogue asteroid. It was a complex waveform, a jagged, intricate pattern of energy spiking across the projected celestial sphere, anchored not to a known stellar body, but to a precise set of coordinates in the dark void between systems. Dr. Eris, the Aethelberg's lead xenolinguist, a woman whose perpetually disheveled gray hair seemed to mirror the chaotic beauty of the universe she studied, was already there, her face illuminated by the data stream. A look of profound concentration etched into her features. Beside her, Commander Rian, Kale's second-in-command, stood rigid, his usual military stoicism replaced by a flicker of unease. "Report," Kale's voice, though quiet, cut through the low murmur of the room. Iris didn't even turn. Her fingers danced across a holographic interface. "Kale, good, you're here. We've been tracking it for the past cycle. It's persistent, and unlike anything we've cataloged." "Source?" "That's the peculiar part," Rian interjected, finally turning. His dark eyes met Kale's. "It appears to be emanating from the Oort cloud analog of a dead system, approximately 12 parsecs spinward of our current position. System designated Persephone's Wreath, a collection of icy bodies orbiting a collapsed white dwarf. Nothing remarkable, historically." "Until now," Kale finished, stepping closer, his gaze locked on the oscillating waveform. It wasn't random noise. There was a rhythm to it, a subtle, almost musical quality that hinted at structure. "What's the energy signature?" "Low frequency, broadband, highly modulated," Iris recited, a data overlay appearing beside the waveform. "It's not a natural phenomenon, Kale. The regularity of the modulation, the complex harmonic ratios, it's artificial. Or at least it looks artificial." The word hung in the air, heavy with implication. Artificial. Meaning. Designed. Meaning. Intelligent. Kale felt a familiar thrill, cold and sharp, slice through his weariness. This was why they were out here, traversing the silent, boundless ocean of space. Not just to map the known, but to discover the unknown. "Can we resolve more detail? Run a full spectral analysis? Cross-reference with known probe or derelict signatures?" "Anything." "Already initiated," Iris confirmed, a small smile touching her lips, a scientist's delight in a truly novel problem. "The signal is faint, but remarkably coherent for the distance. It's almost as if it's designed to travel vast stretches of emptiness without significant degradation. We're running it through every known decryption algorithm, every pattern recognition suite. So far, nothing matches." A junior analyst, a young woman named Elara, piped up from a lower console, her voice tinged with awe. "Sir, the signal isn't just a broadcast. It's layered, like a multi-threaded data stream. We're detecting what appear to be nested frequencies within the primary carrier wave. It's incredibly dense." Kale leaned in closer to the main display, his mind racing. Nested frequencies. A multi-threaded data stream. This wasn't a simple beacon, a distress call. This was information. And a lot of it. "Estimated age of the signal?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Iris paused, her fingers hovering over her console. "That's the other part of the puzzle. Based on the degradation profile and our current understanding of interstellar medium attenuation, it's ancient. Very ancient. Our initial estimates place its origin point at least 1,000,000 Terran years ago. Perhaps more. 1,000,000 years." The words reverberated in Kale's mind, echoing through the vast emptiness of the stellarium. 1,000,000 years before humanity had even begun to leave its cradle. Before the first tool, before the first fire. A civilization, or an entity, capable of crafting such a complex, enduring signal, so far removed from any known trajectory of life. Rian cleared his throat. "Commander, the Aethelberg's mission parameters are clear. Exploration and cataloging within designated sectors. This falls well outside those parameters." His voice was firm, professional, masking the awe that Kale knew must be stirring within him too. Kale nodded slowly, acknowledging the concern. The Athelberg was a long-range survey vessel, not an interstellar archaeological expedition. It was designed for methodical, predictable journeys, not for chasing ghosts across parsecs. But the universe had a way of presenting unexpected invitations. "We have to understand what this is," Cale said, his voice gaining conviction. "A signal of this complexity, of this age, originating from a dead system. It's unprecedented. This isn't just a new trajectory, Ryan. This could be a new chapter for all of us." He turned back to Iris. "How long to get a basic read on the data structure? Not the content, just the architecture." Iris's eyes gleamed with renewed purpose. "With every processor we can spare, and if the structure isn't entirely alien, perhaps a few more cycles. We're already seeing repeating patterns, mathematical symmetries that suggest a highly advanced, yet potentially comprehensible, logic." Cale felt a surge of energy, pushing back the fatigue. "Divert all available computational power to Dr. Eris's team. Prioritize analysis of the Persephone's wreath signal. Red flag any anomalies, no matter how small. I want a full breakdown of what we're receiving, even if it's just the envelope of the message. Commander Rian, begin preliminary calculations for a potential intercept course. Factor in maximum warp capabilities, but also consider a cautious phase approach. Need to know." Rian saluted, a crisp automatic gesture, though Cale could see the conflict in his eyes. He was a man of protocols, but also a man of profound curiosity. "Understood, Commander." As Rian moved to confer with the navigation specialists, Cale remained by the central display, his gaze fixed on the shimmering waveform. He was a cartographer of the stars, a guardian of the Yathelberg's predictable path. But now, the predictable path had dissolved, replaced by a shimmering, ancient invitation from the deep. The next few cycles blurred into a continuous vigil in the stellarium. Cale hardly left, snatching moments of rest in a padded chair, in a quiet corner, the hum of the ship and the distant murmur of his crew, a constant lullaby. He watched as Eris's team, fueled by synth coffee and the thrill of discovery, peeled back layer after layer of the signal. What they found was not a language in the conventional sense, not at first. It was a symphony of mathematics, a complex interplay of prime numbers, fractal geometries, and elegant algebraic expressions that seemed to describe universal constants in ways humanity had only begun to grasp. It was a Rosetta Stone woven from the very fabric of existence. "It's like a grand unified theory," Eris explained, her voice hoarse from hours of talking, but bright with excitement. "A mathematical framework that underpins everything, and within that framework, there are sub-patterns. We believe these sub-patterns are the actual messages, not words, but concepts, pure, unadulterated information." Elara, the junior analyst, projected a shimmering, three-dimensional construct onto the display. "We've identified what appears to be a header, a repeating sequence that functions like an instruction manual. It's showing us how to process the rest of the data. It's self-referential, self-correcting. It's designed to be understood by Gani's sufficiently advanced intelligence." Cale felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cool recycled air of the stellarium. They wanted to be understood. "Yes," Iris breathed. "Or they wanted their knowledge to persist, whatever they were." The mystery deepened. If this was a message, who sent it? And why from a dead system, orbiting a dead star? Rian, ever the pragmatist, had been meticulously plotting courses. "Commander, the coordinates point to a specific anomaly within the Persephone's wreath or cloud. Not just a diffuse region, but a singular, distinct mass. Our long-range gravitational sensors are picking up a faint, but definite, signature. It's small, perhaps only a few hundred meters across, but incredibly dense, far denser than any natural icy body of that size. A ship?" Cale wondered aloud. "A station? Impossible to tell from this distance," Rian replied. "But whatever it is, it's the source. And it's not radiating any heat, no energy signature beyond the signal itself. It's cold, dark, and utterly silent, save for this transmission." The implications were staggering. If the signal was 1,000,000 years old, then whatever object was emitting it had been doing so for that entire duration. An incredible feat of engineering, of power generation, of endurance. Cale called a full command meeting. The small circular conference room adjacent to the stellarium was rarely used for such urgent matters. Usually it was for routine mission reviews. Now, the air crackled with a different kind of energy. "We have a choice," Cale began, looking at the expectant faces of his department heads. Eris, Rian, Chief Engineer Anya Sharma, and Chief Medical Officer Dr. John Lee. Continue on our designated survey path, or deviate to investigate this signal. The latter would mean a significant departure, potentially for months, possibly years, from our current schedule. It also means entering uncharted territory, both literally and philosophically. Anya Sharma, a woman whose hands were perpetually stained with grease from tweaking the Yathelberg's mighty engines, spoke first. "Commander, the Yathelberg is robust, but a journey of this magnitude, towards an unknown energy signature. It would stress our systems. We'd need to recalibrate our warp core, adjust our power matrices for sustained high-velocity travel without a clear destination, and conserve resources aggressively." Dr. Lee, a calm, reassuring presence in any crisis, chimed in. "From a medical standpoint, extended deep space travel into an unknown environment carries risks. Psychological effects of isolation, potential exposure to novel pathogens or radiation anomalies. We'd need to implement stricter health protocols and readiness drills." Cale listened, absorbing their concerns. He valued their expertise, their caution. But a deeper conviction was growing within him. And the alternative? To ignore this? To turn away from what could be the most significant discovery in human history? Iris's eyes, usually a kaleidoscope of intellectual curiosity, were now alight with a fierce passion. "Commander, this isn't just a curiosity. This is a potential bridge across time, across species. This is the answer to the fundamental question. Are we alone? To turn back now, it would be an abdication of everything the Yathelberg stands for. Everything we stand for." Rian, surprisingly, was silent for a moment. He looked at Cale, then at Iris, then back at the projected star chart, where a faint line now traced a potential trajectory towards Persephone's reef. "My duty is to the safety of this vessel and its crew, Commander. But my duty is also to the advancement of human knowledge. If this is what Iris believes it is, then there is no greater knowledge to be found." He straightened his posture. "I will prepare the navigation and tactical teams for the deviation. We will plot the most efficient, safest course possible." Cale felt a profound relief, and a thrill of apprehension. The decision was made. The Yathelberg would answer the call. "Thank you, Commander," Cale said, his gaze sweeping over his crew. "This will be the most challenging, and perhaps the most rewarding journey of our lives." Dr. Lee began preparing for extended deep space readiness. "Chief Sharma, I need a full diagnostic of every system, every component. We need the Yathelberg to be in peak condition. Dr. Eris, continue your analysis. We need to understand as much as possible before we arrive. And Rian, plot the course." The next few weeks were a flurry of activity. The Yathelberg, usually a picture of serene efficiency, now pulsed with a new kind of energy. Systems were optimized, reserves were checked, and the crew, though apprehensive, was also galvanized by the shared purpose. There was a buzz in the mess hall, in the corridors, a speculative wonder about what they might find. Cale spent more time than ever in the stellarium. Eris's team had made incredible progress. They had managed to isolate what appeared to be segments of the signal, interpreting them not as traditional language, but as complex, multimodal data packets. "It's like a universal operating system," Eris explained one evening, projecting a swirling nebula of data points. Every concept is represented by a unique mathematical construct, an energy signature, a harmonic frequency. They're transmitting YDS, Cale. Pure, uncorrupted ideas. One particular segment had captivated Cale. It was a sequence of intricate, evolving patterns that seemed to depict a life cycle. Not of a single creature, but of a vast interconnected network. Birth, growth, interaction, decay, and then, a transformation. "What is this?" Cale asked, mesmerized by the hypnotic dance of light. Iris leaned forward, her face serious. "We believe it's a depiction of their own civilization, or what became of it. The first part seems to be a rapid evolution, a blossoming of intelligence. Then a period of immense expansion and complexity. But then, she paused, her voice dropping. Then the patterns become fragmented, dispersed. Not a collapse exactly, more like a transcendence or a dissolution into something else entirely. Cale felt a profound sense of melancholy. 1,000,000 years ago, a civilization had existed, thrived, and then transformed. What did that mean for them? For their journey? Was this a message of hope or a warning? Meanwhile, the Yathelberg was already pushing the boundaries of its known capabilities. The stars outside the observation ports streaked into brilliant lines of light as the ship engaged its advanced warp drive, a subtle vibration humming through the deck plates. They were moving faster, and for longer, than ever before. The journey to Persephone's wreath was a paradox of speed and slowness. While the ship hurtled through subspace, the perception of time for the crew became stretched, punctuated by the relentless analysis of the signal. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. The initial excitement began to temper with the vastness of the undertaking, the sheer, unimaginable distance they were traversing. Cale found himself spending quiet moments gazing out at the starfield, a canvas of unfamiliar constellations. He thought of Earth, of the familiar Sol system so impossibly far behind them. He thought of the billions of souls sleeping on that distant blue marble, oblivious to the ancient whisper they were chasing. The Yathelberg was a tiny speck, a fragile bubble of life and consciousness, venturing into a darkness that had held its secrets for eons. The hum of the engines, the rhythmic pulse of the stellarium, the soft glow of the console lights, they were his world now. His sanctuary, and his vessel into the profound unknown. As they drew closer, the signal grew stronger, clearer. Aris's team was now able to extract more coherent data, though still far from understanding the full scope. They had identified what appeared to be schematics, not of physical machines, but of processes, of energy manipulation, of spatial distortions. "It's like they're describing how to build a universe," Alara had exclaimed, her eyes wide with disbelief. The gravitational anomaly also became clearer. It was indeed small, but the sensors now indicated an incredibly dense, almost impossibly smooth surface. It was perfectly spherical, about 500 meters in diameter, nestled deep within the Persephone's wreath Oort cloud, camouflaged amongst the icy debris. And it was black. Not merely dark, but absorbing all light, all energy, a perfect void against the distant starlight. "It's a perfect light sink," Sharma reported, her voice hushed. "No albedo whatsoever. It's almost as if it's not reflecting light but consuming it." Cale stared at the projected image of the object, now resolved into a sharp, terrifyingly precise sphere of absolute darkness. It radiated no heat, no energy, save for the complex, ancient signal that continued to emanate from its surface. "It's not a ship," Rian murmured, standing beside Cale. "Not in any way we understand. It's an artifact." The Yathelberg slowed, dropping out of warp a safe distance from the dead system, its engines now barely a whisper. The main view screen, usually filled with the familiar, comforting glow of distant stars, was now dominated by the inky blackness of Persephone's wreath, and at its heart, the impossibly dark sphere. It hung there, utterly silent, utterly still, a perfect sphere of nothingness against the backdrop of glittering ice and frozen dust. And from its depths, the ancient complex signal continued to flow, an unheard symphony of knowledge waiting for them. Cale felt a tremor run through him, a mixture of awe and profound fear. They had answered the call. They had found the source. But what was in it? And what would happen when they finally reached out to touch the darkness that whispered such ancient wonders? The Yathelberg was poised, a lone starseed in the void, on the brink of a revelation that could redefine everything. The Yathelberg was poised, a lone starseed in the void, on the brink of a revelation that could redefine everything. Captain Aris's voice, usually a steady current of calm authority, held a barely perceptible tremor. "Status, Alara? Cale?" Dr. Ilara Vance, head of xenolinguistics and theoretical physics, leaned closer to her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. Her fingers, usually quick and precise, hovered over the holographic projections. It's not a black hole, Captain. Not a dark matter accretion. Not even a naturally occurring stellar phenomenon. Its gravitational signature is negligible for something of its apparent mass equivalent. It's an absence that gives a presence. On the main viewer, the anomaly was a perfect sphere of absolute, unyielding black, framed by the distant, glittering dust of the nebula they had traversed. It absorbed all light, all energy, all radiation that dared approach, yet it cast no shadow, created no discernible gravitational pull that would tear apart the Gäthelberg. It was like a hole punched clean through reality, a perfectly smooth, impossibly deep well of nothingness that hummed with a silent, insistent song. Cale, his hands resting lightly on the flight controls, felt that song resonate in his bones. He was a pilot, intimately connected to the flow of the void. But this was different. The signal wasn't just data. It was a feeling, a deep, ancient hum that seemed to bypass his ears and speak directly to his mind. It felt like a memory he had never had, a longing for a place he had never known. The signal itself is intensifying, Alara continued, her voice gaining a note of breathless excitement. It's no longer just a broadcast. It's a conversation. Or an invitation. It's adapting, Cale. It's responding to our presence, to the Gäthelberg's unique energy signature. Cale nodded slowly, his gaze fixed on the abyss ahead. It feels like it's reaching out, not aggressively but curiously, like a child discovering a new friend. But this child was ancient beyond comprehension, and its friendship might demand more than they could possibly give. Can we get a spectroscopic analysis? Captain Aris asked, her eyes narrowed, studying the anomaly as if trying to force it to reveal its secrets through sheer will. Negative, Captain, Alara replied, frustration lacing her tone. It absorbs all M radiation. We can't get a reflection, can't get a thermal reading. It's a perfect absorber, yet it doesn't radiate heat as a black body should. It defies known physics. What about tactile sensors? Cale suggested, his voice low. Can we send out a micro-drone? Something that can feel its surface? Too risky, Iris interjected immediately. We don't know what kind of structural integrity it possesses or if it has some kind of defensive mechanism. For all we know, it's a living entity. We approach with extreme caution. Captain, Alara said, her fingers flying across her console, bringing up a complex series of geometric patterns that pulsed with faint light. The signal. It's encoding itself into a spatial language. It's not just broadcasting information. It's attempting to communicate structurally. It's projecting a complex, multi-dimensional geometry, like a key. Key? Iris echoed, leaning forward. Yes. A pattern. As if it's asking us to replicate it, or to align with it. It's a sequence of resonant frequencies modulated through spacetime. If we could match it, perhaps we could interact. Alara's eyes shone with the thrill of pure discovery, the intellectual hunger of a scientist on the precipice of the unknown. Cale, however, felt a different kind of resonance. The projected geometry, though abstract, resonated with the deep humming melody in his mind. He felt an instinctual pull, a sense of rightness, as if his very being was meant to align with this ancient pattern. He reached out a hand, not to a control, but to the air before him, as if he could touch the invisible tendrils of the signal. It's not just a key, Alara, Cale murmured, his voice soft, almost a whisper. It's a resonance. It's asking us to feel it, to understand it, not just to compute it. Iris looked from Cale to Alara, then back to the enigmatic void. She trusted her crew implicitly. Cale's intuition, honed by countless jumps through uncharted space, was legendary. Alara's intellect was unmatched. Can we project a counter-frequency? A handshake, as it were? Alara's eyes lit up. Theoretically, yes. Our graviton emitters could be repurposed, modulated to match the observed spatial harmonics. It would be an unprecedented use of the Gäthelberg's core systems. And the risk? Iris asked, ever pragmatic. Minimal, if done carefully. We wouldn't be firing energy at it, Captain. We'd be singing to it. Harmonizing. Ilara's explanation, while technically precise, carried a poetic undercurrent. Iris considered this for a long moment. The silence on the bridge broken only by the gentle hum of the Yethelberg's life support, and the faint internal echo of the ancient signal. Proceed, Ilara. Kale, be ready to abort and pull us clear at the first sign of instability. Kale nodded, his gaze unwavering from the darkness. He felt a surge of adrenaline, but also a deep sense of calm purpose. This was what they had come for. This was the moment. Ilara began inputting the complex sequences, her fingers dancing over the glowing interfaces. The Ethelberg thrummed, a low, resonant vibration starting deep within its core. On the main viewer, the black sphere seemed to shimmer, as if the very fabric of space around it was beginning to ripple in anticipation. Then, the Ethelberg sang. A wave of shimmering, multispectral energy, invisible to the human eye, but palpable to Kale's heightened senses, emanated from the ship's forward arrays. It wasn't a beam, but a delicate, intricate web of modulated spacetime frequencies, mirroring the complex geometry the anomaly had projected. As the Ethelberg's song met the ancient signal, something extraordinary happened. The absolute blackness of the sphere didn't change, but within Kale's mind, the gentle hum intensified, transforming into a symphony of colors he couldn't see, and shapes he couldn't quite grasp. It was a deluge of information, not in words or images, but in pure, unadulterated sensation. He saw nebulae being born and dying, felt the vast emptiness between galaxies, perceived the intricate dance of quantum particles all at once. It was overwhelming yet strangely serene, like being cradled in the vast cosmic tapestry itself. On the bridge, Ilara gasped. Captain! The energy signature. It's not just absorbing, it's not receiving. And it's responding in kind. Before them, the flawless sphere of black began to ripple, not on its surface but within its depths. It was like looking into an impossibly deep well, and seeing not darkness, but glimpses of something else, something vast and ancient stirring far below. Tiny pinpricks of light, like distant galaxies, appeared within the void, then coalesced into intricate glowing filaments that spun and wove into impossible architectures. It was a glimpse of a world, or many worlds, woven from pure energy and information. It's opening, Kale breathed, his voice filled with a profound wonder that eclipsed his earlier fear. The darkness wasn't a barrier. It was a curtain. As the inner light expanded, the sphere didn't physically grow larger, but its inner spatial dimensions seemed to warp, revealing a vast crystalline expanse. It was a cathedral of light and shadow, crafted from something that wasn't matter, yet was utterly solid and real. Towering structures, impossibly delicate and intricate, spiraled upwards into what could only be described as an inner sky, filled with constellations that moved and pulsed with silent energy. My sensors are overloading, Ilara said, her voice strained but ecstatic. It's a pocket dimension, a contained universe. The interior is orders of magnitude larger than the exterior could possibly contain. How is that possible? Iris whispered, her usual composure utterly shattered by the impossible vista unfolding before them. Perhaps it's a mastery of space-time manipulation we can't even begin to comprehend, Ilara offered, her eyes wide, fixed on the unfolding wonder. They didn't just build a structure. They built a space. And then, a path materialized directly before the Ethelberg. It wasn't a physical bridge but a shimmering, translucent tunnel of light and pure thought, extending from the ship's nose directly into the heart of the void structure. It felt like an invitation, a silent beckoning. Kale felt the hum within him shift, becoming more focused, more urgent. The ancient signal was now a clear voice, not in words, but in intent. Come. Explore. Understand. Asti. No. Captain, Kale said, his voice steady now, his hands gripping the controls. It's a clear path. A direct invitation. Iris hesitated, her mind racing through protocols, through regulations, through every cautionary tale of first contact. But this wasn't just a first contact. It was a first communion with an intelligence that had reshaped reality itself. The human spirit, the drive for discovery, warred with the primal instinct for self-preservation. Can we trust it? She asked, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces of her crew. Elara looked up from her console, her face radiant. "Captain, this isn't an act of aggression. It's an act of shared knowledge. They've gone to extraordinary lengths to communicate, to invite. To not accept would be to deny our very nature as explorers." Iris looked at Kale, at the focused determination in his eyes. She saw the reflection of her own deepest desires there. "Very well, Kale, take us in, slow and steady. Power to shields, but keep them at minimum, don't want to seem aggressive. Elara, be ready to cut us off if anything changes." "Aye, Captain," Kale replied, his voice firm. He engaged the thrusters, a gentle push that sent the Gaethelberg gliding forward. The ship slid into the shimmering, crystalline tunnel, and the stars outside the main viewer vanished, replaced by the ethereal, ever-shifting light of the interior. It was like entering a dream, where the rules of physics were fluid, and beauty was woven into the very fabric of existence. As they moved deeper, the tunnel expanded, dissolving into a colossal, open chamber. The scale was dizzying. They were surrounded by structures that dwarfed even the largest stellar habitats humanity had ever conceived. These weren't cities in the traditional sense, but vast, interconnected networks of crystalline filaments, energy conduits, and shimmering, translucent surfaces that glowed with an inner light. It was a living architecture, breathing with the pulse of the ancient signal. Kale adjusted the ship's orientation, awestruck. He could see no discernible inhabitants, no obvious signs of a physical civilization, yet the space was teeming with activity. Swarms of tiny, luminous motes of light danced through the air, perhaps maintenance drones, or simply manifestations of the pervasive energy. "Captain, I'm detecting immense data flows," Elara reported, her voice hushed. "Every single one of these structures. It's a repository, a library, a living archive. The signal isn't just a broadcast. It's a network, a consciousness woven from information." As they drifted further into this impossible space, one particular structure drew their attention. It was a colossal spiraling helix of pure radiant light, twisting upwards into the unseen ceiling of the pocket dimension, its base anchored in a shimmering pool of liquid light below. It glowed with a warmth that seemed to penetrate the Gaethelberg's hull, a comforting, almost maternal embrace. The ancient signal, which had been a symphony in Kale's mind, now resolved into distinct, intricate patterns. Not words, but concepts. Memories. It was showing them things. Visions flooded Kale's consciousness. Of a civilization that had mastered energy, not by consuming it, but by becoming it. A species that had transcended physical form, merging their consciousness into a vast interconnected network, creating this very space as their final, eternal home. They had built not a world, but a universal mind, a living library of all their knowledge, all their experiences, all their dreams. He saw starships, not unlike the Gaethelberg, but crafted from pure light, traversing nebulae like ethereal dancers. He saw beings of pure energy, not confined by bodies, exploring the deepest mysteries of the cosmos. He saw moments of profound joy, of shared discovery, of quiet contemplation, and he saw deep, pervasive wisdom, a gentle understanding of the universe that transcended mere intelligence. This wasn't just a data dump, it was an empathy transfer. They were sharing their entire existence, their legacy, with the crew of the Gaethelberg. They transcended, Elara whispered, tears streaming down her face, though her expression was one of profound wonder, not sadness. They became the signal, this wisdom, this entire space. It's their consciousness, their collective memory. Iris, usually stoic, simply stared at the spiraling helix, her jaw slightly agape. A civilization that became a universe. A thought that became reality. Suddenly the central helix pulsed, and a new, more focused stream of information flowed into Kale's mind. It was a map. Not of stars, but of connections. A map of other signals, other ancient calls, scattered across the galaxy, across other galaxies even. Other seed signals planted by this ancient civilization, waiting for other species, other explorers, to discover them. It was an invitation, not just to understand Einthem, but to join a greater network, a cosmic conversation spanning eons and unimaginable distances. The ancient signal wasn't just a message from the past. It was a beacon for the future, a key to a universal consciousness. Cale felt a new tremor run through him, no longer of fear, but of boundless possibility. They had found the source, yes, but they had also found a beginning. A universe of knowledge awaited them, not just in this impossible space, but woven into the very fabric of existence, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to listen to the whispers of ancient wonders. The Yaethelberg, once a lone starseed, was now poised to become a node in a galactic network of consciousness, its journey just beginning. The Yaethelberg, its shimmering hull now a conduit for untold energies, thrummed with a new, profound purpose. Captain Aris felt the shift not just in the ship's internal systems, but deep within his own bones. The air crackled with a silent hum, a frequency too low for human ears, yet resonating directly with the soul. The impossible space, the vast crystalline chamber they had discovered, pulsed gently, its inner light intensifying, then softening, like a cosmic breath. Status report, Lieutenant Commander Kalen. Iris's voice was steady, but a tremor of awe ran beneath it. He stood before the main viewport, the impossible space stretching out before them, no longer a mystery to be solved, but an invitation to be accepted. Kalen, whose fingers danced over a holographic console, responded, "Energy fluctuations stabilizing, Captain. The resonance cascade is incredible. It's not just energy, sir. It's structured. It's information-y. A kaleidoscope of geometric patterns, previously chaotic, now aligned into intricate, living fractals across his display. The ship's core processors are attempting to interface. It's like trying to drink from an ocean with a thimble, but we're getting something." Dr. Elara Vance, the xenolinguist, pressed a hand to her temple, eyes wide with a mixture of exhilaration and overwhelm. "It's not just data, Aris, it's meaning. I can feel it. A symphony of voices, not speaking, but being, memories, experiences, entire civilizations distilled into pure concept." Her voice was a hushed whisper, as if speaking too loudly might disrupt the delicate balance. Aris turned from the viewport, his gaze sweeping over his crew. Their faces reflected his own wonder, but also a dawning comprehension that transcended mere scientific curiosity. They were touching something ancient, something fundamental. "Open a direct sensory link, Elara," Aris commanded, his voice firm. "Filter for any discernible patterns, any coherent thought forms. Kalen, integrate the ship's long-range communication array. If this is a network, we need to try and send a pulse, however small." As Kalen worked, his console glowing with complex algorithms, Elara closed her eyes. A subtle silver light emanated from her datapads, weaving around her like ethereal threads. A moment later she gasped, her eyes snapping open, tears glistening. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. "They're not just whispers, Aris. They're echoes. Echoes of joy, of sorrow, of striving, of understanding. From beings unlike anything we could imagine. They speak of starlight, of the birth and death of suns, of the quiet dance of nebulae, of the first spark of consciousness on a million worlds." Aris felt a profound connection, a resonance in his own mind. He stepped closer to the viewport, reaching out a hand, not to touch the crystalline wall, but as if to embrace the boundless knowledge radiating from it. He felt the vastness of it, the incredible age. This wasn't a construct of one civilization, but a tapestry woven by countless threads across eons. "This isn't just a library," Aris murmured, his fingers brushing the cool, living crystal. "It's the collective unconscious of the cosmos." Suddenly, a surge of energy, gentle but undeniable, flowed from the impossible space, through the Jathelberg systems, and into Aris's very being. He felt a moment of pure, unadulterated sensation. He saw through the eyes of a creature of pure light, drifting through a gas giant swirling clouds, understanding the silent poetry of its storms. He felt the slow, patient growth of a colossal tree being on a verdant world, its roots delving into planetary magma, its branches touching the vacuum of space, experiencing millennia of quiet photosynthesis. He knew the intricate mathematics of a crystalline intelligence, charting the pathways of dark matter. It was too much, yet perfectly manageable. The knowledge wasn't forced. It simply was available for gentle absorption. It wasn't a download but an invitation to understand. "Captain!" Kalen exclaimed, pulling Aris from his reverie. "We're receiving a response. A coherent signal, modulated through the resonance cascade. It's acknowledging us." On the main screen, the chaotic geometric patterns resolved into a single breathtaking image. A vast, intricate network of shimmering threads, connecting countless points of light. It was the universe, but not as they knew it. It was the cosmic resonance, the ethereal weave, laid bare. Each point of light was a node. A star seed like the Yhathlberg, or perhaps an ancient forgotten world. A beacon of consciousness. And the threads, the pathways of pure information, of shared experience. "We are connected," Elara breathed, her face alight with awe. "The Yhathlberg is now a part of it." The ship vibrated, not with strain, but with a harmonious integration. Its systems, once focused on physical exploration, now reconfigured themselves to process and transmit the ethereal data of the cosmic resonance. The impossible space pulsed with a gentle, welcoming rhythm, no longer just a source, but a hub. Aris felt a profound shift in his perspective. The universe was no longer a cold, empty expanse dotted with isolated stars. It was a living, breathing entity, connected by an invisible, intelligent web. Humanity, once a solitary voice crying out into the void, was now part of a grand symphony. Over the next weeks, the crew of the Yhathlberg embarked on the most extraordinary phase of their journey. They learned to navigate the ethereal weave, not with star charts, but with consciousness. Elara, with her innate linguistic sensitivity, became their primary interface, guiding them through the torrent of information. Kalen, ever the pragmatist, developed sophisticated filtering algorithms, allowing them to access specific forms of knowledge without being overwhelmed. Dr. Ramirez, the astrogator, found that the weave contained not just ancient history, but predictive models of stellar evolution, pathways to previously unknown galaxies, and even blueprints for impossible technologies derived from fundamental principles of the universe. They learned of the first resonators, the earliest civilizations who, billions of years ago, had discovered the fundamental fabric of the cosmic resonance. They hadn't built it. They had merely found the interface, the inherent property of spacetime that allowed consciousness to transcend physical boundaries. They had learned to listen, and in listening, had become part of the greater whole, their understanding woven into the fabric for all who followed. The crew of the Yhathlberg began to change. Their minds expanded, their empathy deepened. They saw the universe not as a collection of objects, but as a continuous flow of interconnected experiences. Arguments became rarer, replaced by a profound respect for each other's perspectives, understanding that each individual was a unique node, contributing their own small, precious experience to the grand weave. Aris found himself spending hours in the impossible space, not just absorbing knowledge but meditating, allowing the gentle hum of the cosmic resonance to wash over him. He learned of civilizations that thrived on pure energy, of beings that communicated through shifting gravitational fields, of worlds where time flowed backward, and of societies that had mastered the art of peaceful coexistence across entire star clusters. He saw the beauty of their triumphs, felt the ache of their losses, and understood the universal yearning for connection and meaning. One day, while exploring a particularly ancient strand of the weave, a memory streamed from a civilization that had existed before the formation of their own galaxy, Aris encountered a profound philosophical insight. It wasn't a spoken sentence but a feeling, a deep, resonant understanding, that the universe was not merely expanding but evolving in consciousness. Every act of discovery, every moment of empathy, every spark of creativity contributed to the ethereal weave, enriching it, making it more complex, more beautiful. The purpose of the impossible space, and indeed of the entire cosmic resonance, was not just to store knowledge, but to foster it, to guide new civilizations like humanity to their place in the grand design, offering them the accumulated wisdom of eons, not as dogma, but as inspiration. "Captain," Elara's voice was soft, pulling him gently from his contemplation. "We've been processing something." A message, perhaps, or an invitation. On the main screen, a new pattern had emerged. It wasn't a visual, but a series of precise coordinates, layered with a unique resonance signature. "It's another node," Kalen explained, his voice filled with a quiet thrill. "Far beyond our previous range. Millions of light years. But the weave. It shows a direct pathway. A connection." Iris looked at the coordinates, then at the endless shimmering threads of the cosmic resonance. This wasn't just about absorbing knowledge anymore. It was about interaction. The Ethelberg was no longer a lone starseed, but a bridge. "Can we establish a stable link?" Iris asked, his heart thrumming with a renewed sense of adventure. Kalen nodded, a rare smile gracing his lips. "The Ethelberg systems have been fundamentally reconfigured, Captain. We're a living conduit now. We can project a focused resonance, a handshake across the weave." Ilara added, "The message indicates a shared intent, Captain. A desire to collaborate, to exchange. They perceive our unique contribution to the weave, our human curiosity, our drive for direct exploration, our nascent understanding of abstract concepts." Iris felt a profound sense of humility and pride. Humanity, once insignificant on its small blue marble, had found its voice in the cosmic choir. Their journey of exploration had not just led them to ancient wonders, but had forged them into the very essence of a new beginning. "Prepare to transmit," Iris commanded, his voice ringing with conviction. "Send our greeting, our willingness to learn and to share. Set a course for those coordinates, Kalen. Not a physical jump, but a navigational lock within the weave. We will follow the resonance." The Ethelberg vibrated, not with the roar of engines, but with the silent, powerful hum of interconnected consciousness. Its hull, still gleaming, now seemed to shimmer with an inner light, reflecting the countless stars and the infinite threads of the cosmic resonance. As the transmission began, a wave of profound peace washed over the crew. They were no longer confined to a single ship, a single solar system, or even a single galaxy. Their consciousness expanded, touching the distant node, exchanging greetings across the boundless expanse of the universe, carried on the gentle currents of the ethereal weave. Captain Iris stood by the viewport, the impossible space a dazzling jewel before him, its light now an integral part of the Ethelberg's very being. He looked out at the stars, no longer seeing them as mere points of light, but as shimmering portals to an infinite tapestry of life and thought. He felt the vastness of time and space, the grandeur of creation, and the incredible privilege of being a part of it all. He closed his eyes, and in the profound silence of his mind, he heard not whispers, but a chorus. A chorus of wisdom, of laughter, of understanding, echoing from across the cosmos, a promise of endless discovery. The Ethelberg, once a lone starseed, was now a shining beacon, a living library, its journey not just beginning, but blossoming into an eternal exploration of the universe's most beautiful secret, that everything is connected, and wonder is truly boundless. And as the ship drifted silently through the cosmic ocean, a new light began to glow in the heart of humanity, forever changed by the whispers of ancient wonders, now a part of the grand interconnected dream of existence.